The episode was called The New Toy. It begins on a normal morning. Peppa wakes up, walks downstairs, has breakfast with her family, and then goes back to her room to play. George is downstairs playing with his dinosaur, Mummy is cleaning in the kitchen, and Daddy Pig is reading his newspaper. Everything feels calm and familiar. Peppa walks into her room and starts placing her toys on the carpet. She takes out her doll, some blocks, and her little toy house. But then she notices something new on the shelf. There is a small plush pig sitting there. It is pink, with soft ears and a tiny smile. Peppa stops and looks at it. She says, "I don't remember this toy." She picks up the little plush pig and examines it carefully. "Hello," Peppa says to the toy. "Are you mine?" Then she walks downstairs and shows it to Mummy. "Mummy, is this my toy?" Peppa asks. Mummy looks at the plush pig and answers calmly. "Of course, Peppa. You've always had that toy." Peppa looks surprised. "Always?" "Yes," Mummy says. "You used to play with it a lot." Peppa frowns slightly. She tries to remember, but she can't. "That's strange. I don't remember it at all." Daddy Pig looks up from his newspaper and smiles. "Sometimes we just forget about old toys," he says. Peppa nods, but she still feels like something isn't quite right. She goes back to her room and places the toy on the shelf. Then she continues playing with her other toys. The rest of the day passes normally. Peppa and George play together, the family eats dinner, and in the evening, Peppa goes to bed. Before falling asleep, she looks at the shelf. The plush pig is still sitting exactly where she left it. "Good night," Peppa says, and turns off the light. During the night, the room is quiet. Moonlight shines through the window and falls softly on the floor and the toys. In the morning, Peppa wakes up and sits on her bed. She looks around the room, and then she notices something. The plush pig is no longer on the shelf. Now it is lying on the carpet. Peppa slowly gets up and walks closer. "But I put you on the shelf," she says quietly. She picks up the toy and places it back where it was. Then she goes downstairs for breakfast. During the day, everything seems normal again. Peppa plays, draws pictures, and reads a book. But every now and then she looks up at the shelf. The toy is still there. That evening she goes to bed again. Before closing her eyes, she checks the shelf one more time. The plush pig is sitting exactly where she left it. But the next morning, Peppa wakes up and notices something strange again. This time the toy is sitting on the chair beside her bed. Peppa slowly walks over to it. "I definitely didn't put you here." She looks at the toy for a few seconds. Then she quietly says, "Maybe. It's just my imagination." But before leaving the room, Peppa turns around, and for a moment, it almost feels like the little plush pig is looking right at her. The episode was called The New Suzy. It begins on a normal morning. Peppa gets ready for school, has breakfast with her family, and walks along the path to school. The weather is calm, and everything seems normal. Peppa is smiling because she is excited to see her best friend, Suzy Sheep. But when she arrives in the schoolyard, she immediately notices that something feels different. Suzy is standing a little away from the other children. She is wearing dark sunglasses, even though the sun is not very bright. She doesn't wave to Peppa or run up to her like she usually does. She just stands there quietly, looking in Peppa's direction. Peppa walks closer and says, "Hello, Suzy." Suzy slowly turns her head and replies, "Oh, hello, Peppa." Her voice sounds calm, almost too calm. Peppa is surprised. Usually Suzy laughs right away and starts talking about something exciting. Peppa asks why she is wearing sunglasses. Suzy answers, "Because now I'm different." Peppa isn't sure what that means. During the lesson, Suzy behaves strangely. She sits very straight and barely speaks. When the teacher asks a question, Suzy answers calmly and briefly. During recess, the other children gather around her. Pedro says Suzy looks very cool now. Rebecca agrees, but Peppa begins to feel uneasy. It seems like Suzy has become distant, almost like someone else. Peppa tries several times to talk with her like before. She suggests playing games and running around the playground, but Suzy answers only with short replies or stays silent. Sometimes she just looks at Peppa through the dark glasses, her expression barely changing. Peppa starts to feel a strange tension she can't explain. After school, Peppa invites Suzy to come to her house. She hopes things will go back to normal there. Suzy stays quiet for a moment and then says, "All right." When they arrive, George runs to the door with his dinosaur and happily says, "Suzy." But Suzy only replies softly, "Hello, George," and slowly walks into Peppa's room. Peppa takes out her toys and suggests playing, but Suzy sits quietly and barely laughs. She occasionally looks around the room and adjusts her sunglasses. The house feels strangely quiet. Peppa begins to speak more carefully. "Suzy, are you okay?" Suzy turns toward her and says, "I'm just the new Suzy." Peppa looks at her and softly replies, "I like the old Suzy better." For a few seconds, Suzy says nothing. Then she slowly takes off her sunglasses and suddenly starts laughing like before. "I was joking," she says. "I just wanted to try being cool." Peppa smiles with relief. George shows his dinosaur, and Suzy starts playing with them again. The room feels normal and cheerful once more. In the evening, Suzy says goodbye and walks home along the path. Peppa waves from the door and goes back inside. But as Suzy walks away, she quietly puts the dark sunglasses back on. Her smile fades. Softly, she says to herself, "The new Suzy." She slowly turns her head and looks back toward Peppa's house. At that moment, Peppa is watching her from the window. Their eyes meet for a second. Suzy gives a small smile, but this smile looks very different from the one she had before. The episode begins calmly. An ordinary day. Peppa and George are playing in the living room. Daddy Pig is putting together a shelf, and Mummy Pig is cooking lunch. Everything is bright and sunny, and the usual cheerful music plays. Nothing feels strange. Peppa runs down the hallway and suddenly stops. In the wall, between the staircase and her parents' bedroom, there is a small red door. It wasn't there before. It's neat, slightly smaller than a normal door, with a round golden handle. "Mummy, what is that door?" Peppa asks. Mummy looks out from the kitchen. "What door, Peppa?" When Mummy walks closer, the door is gone. Just an ordinary wall. Peppa blinks. She takes a step back, and the door appears again. Bright red. Peppa carefully touches the handle. The door opens without a sound. Behind it, there is no darkness. There is another hallway. It looks like their house, but cleaner, brighter, quieter. Peppa steps inside. The music disappears. In front of her is the living room. Daddy Pig is sitting at the table. Mummy Pig is smiling. George is playing. Everything looks the same, but too perfect. Nothing is out of place. Not a single toy is messy. "Hello, Peppa," Mummy says. "Today we will do anything you want," Daddy Pig adds. Peppa smiles. "Really?" "Of course, Peppa," Mummy replies. "You are always right." Peppa suggests jumping in muddy puddles inside the house. "Wonderful idea," Daddy Pig says calmly, but no one laughs. They jump, but there is no joyful sound. Their faces are smiling, but there is no laughter. Peppa begins to feel something is wrong. "Let's eat cake for breakfast." "Wonderful idea," Mummy replies again. "You are always right, Peppa." Their voices are soft, too soft, almost empty. Peppa looks at George. "George, roar!" George opens his mouth. Silence. He moves the dinosaur, but it makes no sound. In this world, there is no laughter, no noise, no disagreement, only agreement. Peppa walks to the window. Outside is the green hill, but the sky is still. The clouds do not move. Birds are frozen in the air. What if I say the sky is green? Peppa asks. The sky is green, Mummy calmly repeats. You are always right, Peppa. Peppa feels a wave of unease. What if I say you're not my parents? Daddy and Mummy continue smiling. We are whatever you want us to be. Their smiles slowly widen, but their eyes do not change. Peppa steps back. I want to go home. This is home, Mummy replies. You can stay here forever. No one argues here. Everything is perfect. Peppa suddenly realizes that no one has laughed even once. She runs back toward the hallway. The red door is still open. Before stepping through, she turns around. They are all standing in the same places, smiling, not blinking. Peppa runs back into her real house. The music returns. The colors feel warmer. In the hallway, there is only a normal wall. The red door is gone. Peppa sighs in relief. It was just a dream, she says. But on the wall, a small red handle remains. Neat, perfect. Peppa slowly touches it, and in that moment, the door appears again, but this time it is already closed. From the inside, someone slowly turns the handle and gently shuts it completely. From the other side, the music abruptly cuts off. The final shot shows the normal hallway of the pig family's house, but a faint red outline of a door is still visible on the wall, and it feels like someone is quietly waiting behind it. The deleted episode was called The New Room. It starts like a normal day. The sun is shining, Peppa walks downstairs, Mummy is making breakfast, Daddy is reading his newspaper, and George is playing with his dinosaur. Everything feels calm and familiar. Later that day, Peppa runs down the hallway and suddenly notices a door that was never there before. It's at the end of the hallway near the stairs. The door looks completely normal, light-colored. Nothing special about it. Mummy, did we always have this door? Peppa asks. What door? Mummy replies from the kitchen. When Mummy comes into the hallway, the door is gone. Just a wall. Peppa blinks. She takes a step back. The door appears again. She slowly opens it. Inside is a room that looks a little like their living room, but it's emptier. The light feels colder. In the middle of the room stands Daddy Pig. Daddy, what are you doing here? Peppa asks. I have always been here, he answers. His voice sounds flat. No joke, no laughter. Is this a new room? Peppa asks. He smiles. This is your room. But this isn't my room. Now it is, he says. Peppa feels uncomfortable. She closes the door and goes back to the hallway. Everything is normal again. Daddy is in the kitchen reading his newspaper like nothing happened. The next day, the door appears again. Peppa opens it. This time, Mummy is inside the room. She is standing still, holding a cup. Mummy? Peppa says. Yes, Peppa. Why are you here? I have always been here. Her voice sounds just as flat as Daddy's did the day before. You shouldn't go into other rooms, Mummy says. But is this our room? No, it's yours. She smiles, but her eyes don't change. Peppa closes the door. Later that evening, the real Mummy acts completely normal, as if nothing strange happened. On the third day, the door appears again. Peppa is scared now, but she opens it anyway. George is standing inside. He isn't holding his dinosaur. He just stares at her. George! Peppa whispers. You're late, he says clearly. Late for what? We were waiting for you. Who is we? George smiles, but it's not his usual smile. Everyone. The light in the room grows slightly dimmer. You will stay here soon, he says. Peppa quickly slams the door and runs away. That evening, the whole family is sitting at the dinner table. Everything looks normal. Daddy laughs, Mummy pours tea, George eats quietly. Peppa finally asks, Do we have a new room? Daddy laughs. What new room? There's a door in the hallway. Mummy shakes her head. There are no new rooms in our house. We've never seen any door, Daddy adds. George just looks at Peppa and says nothing. After dinner, Peppa walks back into the hallway. The door isn't there. She takes a step back. The door appears, slowly. It is slightly open, and light is coming from inside. Peppa walks closer and looks in. Daddy, Mummy, and George are standing inside the room together, side by side. They are all smiling, but none of them are blinking. "We have always been here," they say at the same time. Peppa quickly turns around. The hallway behind her is empty. When she looks back at the room, the light goes out.